Flourish is free from Google. You can log in with a Gmail, and it instantly makes really powerful visualizations. I'm going to log in with my Gmail. I'm already logged in on this browser, and it took me in. So what I'm going to do is create a new visualization. So what I want to do is go down here and pick, and you'll see lots and lots of choices. So if you have a data set with 4, 5, 6 columns, and you want to compare like this one, 2012 to 2013 to 2014 to 2015, or if you want to compare BLOS to states with bar charts, or if you want to do more elaborate bar charts, fall semester, spring semester, summer 1, summer 2, and you can look at that year by year. They have all these visualizations embedded in Flourish. You just pick the one you want and then insert data. And I can pick on any one of these that actually calls up a data segment where I can start typing data into an Excel that's built into Google Flourish, or I can copy my own data into this sort of Excel. So let me go back to the selection, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a simple bar graph. So let me do a column chart, and I'll bring in my B data. So I have this. Now let me go to data, and it lets me upload data. So let me upload data, and I'm going to go get my BLOS spreadsheet, and it'll import that, replace what's already there. By the way, it asks at this point in Flourish, is your data public? That's up to you. If you created your data set, certainly you could make it public. I do that with my students in my class. I make it public data. The reason for that is it will let you get an embed code or shareable link to this interactive that you're building and publish it on a website, but it has to be publicly available data. Now, all the data you went and searched for with the file type search tool that I taught you about, that you've downloaded on crime statistics, on immigration, on all the different things you've looked at, those are all public data sets. You were able to search those and download them off an internet without any kind of passcode. So those are public data. So if you want to use one of those, you can import publicly, and it allows you to do that. So it imported my 51 rows, my 50 states. Row 1 is the title. Rows 1 through 51 are the states. Now it asks me, what do you want the label to be? It's in column A, that's the state names, and then the values are in column B over here. If I had 4, 5, 6 columns over there, watch, I could just go over here and type C, and it would put in data from column C on my visualization. But our data is in B, so I'm going to leave it as B, and it's going to, by the way, preview in this bottom right corner. So watch down there. I'm going to type B here. It'll grab data from B, and as soon as I click somewhere else, it's going to populate this. And if I click on preview up here at the top next to data, it's going to show me my bar graph. Now, this would be more elegant if it was sorted rather than alphabetically, if it was sorted largest to smallest. We can do that easily. I can go to data, and on this column B, I'm just going to click this pull down, and I want to sort Z to A, which is largest to smallest, with the exception of Alaska had no BLOS. You saw it change in the preview. If I click preview up here, there's our descending bar chart from that data set. Now, the neat thing about this is I can then export and publish up here, and it'll let me get a link or even an embed code, so I can put this in a page in my website and my WordPress site. I do this with my students in my multimedia reporting class and in our data journalism classes, and we'll have them build an interactive and then embed it in a site that's a much bigger piece of work for them. It's a well-researched investigative article, for example, lots of interviews, multimedia elements. Now let's say I want to do something else with this data. It's state level data, so why not do a visualization that, by the way, this auto saves. If you look over here, it says saved. So this data is saved. So let me go back home. I've got state level data. Why don't I do a map, an interactive map? So here we go. We've got new visualization. And I'm going to go down and look for US states map. By the way, look, congressional districts, counties in all the different states. I want states. So I'm going to collect US states, and it's going to open this. And I could go just import my data again, but there's a problem with that. First, before I do that, if you look, there are all of the states with outlines and colors. That's called the regions layer. And I could go in there and tweak things in the regions layer if I wanted to. For example, I could change the color, which I'll do in a minute. For now, I'm going to leave the regions layer as it is, but there are also dots. These dots represent cities in the default data set that's in here. I don't want those. So I'm going to click points layer and just turn it off. So I'm just going to hit disabled turn off points label, because for my purposes today, all I'm going to do is work with the state outlines. So I've got my US states map. Let me go to data and I'll import again. I'm going to upload data and I'll select BLOS, open, and it's going to say import publicly. It's a public data set. I built it from an existing article. Now, here's the catch. Select the columns. So the location data obviously is column A, state, right? Wrong. And I'll show you why in a sec, but it asks for geometry, which is location data. I'm going to go ahead and leave A because that's where my states are. So I'll select my columns. Name is also A, and you can do that. Value is going to be B. The problem is, if you look at my preview down here, I'm not getting anything. And I'll click preview here and I'll show you. I don't have any values. It's not showing me the map. The reason is in Flourish, unlike that Google map that I showed you, in that Google map, the Google map knows states. It knows Alabama, the state lines, and it automatically will locate your information by the name of the state. Flourish won't do that. What it needs for the state location is a special column called geometry. So let me back up and I'll show you before I imported my data. Let me go ahead and click US states. We'll do another one. It's going to bring the default data in. What I want to do is, let me go to data. Well, here, let me go turn off points layer. I'm going to go back into data. And this first column, geometry, I have to keep. That's Google Flourish's default geolocation column. So what I'm going to do is add states to column B and then B loss percentage in column C. So I'm going to keep A right where it is, and A is going to be my location data. So I have states here. The problem is, if you look, there are also some other things in here. Puerto Rico, Guam. So there are some other locations in here that I actually don't want. So what I want to do is delete places that aren't a freestanding state because it won't align with my data. You can right click and it'll delete that row. So let's see, I think there were 3. There's Puerto Rico and Guam. See if I can find them. There's Puerto Rico again, row 33. I'm going to right click and just remove row. And one more down here, Guam. So DC, Puerto Rico, and Guam. I've not been to Guam. I've been to the other 2. So now I'm back to 52 rows, starting on row 2 with the state. So that works. Now I'm going to sort these alphabetically, sort column A to Z. So what I did is I clicked this little pull down by column B, sort by column A to Z. One of the things I'm trying to show you is there are pitfalls in this stuff. You really have to go in and play with it, but it's a really powerful tool. So I've got my geometry column intact. I've got my 50 state names in column B. I have a couple of options. I could replace column C with my state data, or I can add a new column. So I'm going to see if I can add a new column. I'm going to insert a column to the right, and I will just paste my B loss data in there. So let me go to my Excel spreadsheet. I have it here starting with Alabama. So I'll select the B2 next to Alabama, and then B51 next to Wyoming. I'm going to right click and copy. I will come over here, jump on that first cell and hit paste. And Wyoming should be 41. And look, there's a problem. I missed one, US Virgin Islands. All right, let me undo, remove US Virgin Islands. Let's try it again. All right, these are alphabetical. First cell, paste. All right, Wyoming 41.1, Wyoming 41.1, spot check, Massachusetts 57.5. There we go. So our data looks good. So now what I can do is I've got my data in here. I've got a map selected. And by the way, if you look, you see it's previewing now with the map intact. It's because I kept that geometry column. And over here I have geometry selected at A. I'm going to make B the titles, and C is not the value. I'm going to make D the value. I could delete column C, but I'm just not going to use it. So for now, I'm just going to ignore it. The way you ignore it is you just put D in value. By the way, you could put a couple of things in here. So I can do C, comma D, and it ends up putting both values in there. It blends them in this case. In my case, I'm just going to put D, but I just wanted you to know that's built in to Flourish. if you wanted to display numbers over the states or something, you could do that. So let me go to my preview. If I hover over these states now, it's going to tell me the data. So again, Wyoming was 41.1. There it is. Massachusetts was 57.5. So it's previewing the data. Couple of things you can tweak. Points layer we turned off. This is the regions layer. So let me do this. I'm going to go to regions layer, and I'm going to tweak a couple of things. So bee loss is pretty serious business, right? So it's a pretty urgent matter for agriculture. It's a real problem. So one of the things I'm going to do is, blue is a nice, cool, inviting color. It doesn't suggest something bad is happening with this data. So I'm going to click palette and change it to oranges or reds. I'll make it oranges. And what it shows is the darkest colors actually are the largest bee loss. Pennsylvania, 60% from one year to the next. Idaho, only 3% loss. So you can tell at a glance that there isn't that much bee loss. You can change other things in here. So for example, you could change the scale. Right now, I think it's 0 to 65 because that's about in line with what the data was. It automatically defaults to that. I can make it bend data and tell it I want it to be in 4 bins. So I've got 4 different colors here. I don't like that. So what I like is continuous. I'm going to select continuous. You can also select categorical and have it be all these different colors. That's a little harder to interpret. I like continuous, so I'm going to put it on that. And basically, darker colors mean more bee loss. Lighter colors mean less bee loss. And so at a glance, it's more useful. This also, by the way, auto-saved. So now what I'm going to do is something a little different. I've got 2 visualizations on my bee loss data. So I have my interactive map, and then I also have my bar graphs. So I have these ones, and it tells you when you made it. So I'm going to open this one. This is the one I just finished. Give it a title up here at the top. I'll go back to home, do the same thing with my bar graph that I made just a minute ago. This should be the descending bar graph. It should remember the data. It does. So I have my 2 items titled. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a story. This is a cool feature. So I'm going to hit create story, and it's going to allow me to give it a title. And I've got my bar graph. And now what I can do is, that's my first slide is my bar chart. And note, it retains all the interactivity. If I hover over these things, it shows me the numbers. So if I go down to Wyoming, it's going to show me 41.4. So it actually keeps that data, and as you hover over it, it shows you. Now I'm going to add a new slide. So when I click new slide, it's kind of like a PowerPoint. I'll choose a visualization. We've got the other one in here, bee loss by state map a minute ago. I'm going to select that one, and I have 2 slides like I built a PowerPoint. But the thing is, it's not just a slide, it's a data interactive. It's got the heat map colors assigned to it. If I hover over the states, it previews what the numbers are. Same with my bar graph. Now they're together as a story. And the cool thing about this is I can then take that story rather than just the visualization, the bar graph, and I can go copy it. So now I can hit export and publish, and it's going to let me export a story. What it does is let me publish it because it's public data. And now I've got embed code that I can use to put this in my website. And it's the story. Note right here, it shows the word story. So what I can do is embed this in my site, and it looks a lot like this. It's got the right, left arrows here at the top. So your reader can toggle between the bar graph and the interactive map. You can have 3 visualizations, 5 visualizations, complex data about voter turnout by age, that sort of thing. And people can step through and sort their own data and tell their own story very quickly using Google Flourish. And it's an open source free tool that any of your students can sign up for, even if they don't have a Gmail address.